The cabin had gone quiet hours ago. Only the low hum of the engines remained, steady and deep, like a heartbeat trapped inside the body of the plane. Most of first class had gone to sleep. Heads leaned against windows. Blankets covered expensive clothes. Soft reading lights glowed here and there like dying stars. But in seat 3A, Evelyn Hart stayed awake with her spine stiff and her hands folded too tightly in her lap. She was not afraid of flying. She was afraid of silence. In coach, silence never lasted. There were crying babies, restless legs, whispered arguments, headphones leaking tinny music. But up here, the quiet had weight. It pressed against her ears. It made every tiny sound stand out. The creak of leather, the ice settling in a glass, the faint tap of keys from the man beside her. Evelyn kept her eyes forward. Still, as she watched him, she had learned how to do that years ago, back when she worked cases that taught her how much a person could reveal without saying a word. The man in 3B had not looked up since takeoff. His posture stayed careful and controlled. His body angled toward his laptop just enough to block anyone nearby from seeing the screen. His shoulders were relaxed, but not truly relaxed. He looked like a man who had spent years protecting information and himself. She knew his face, not from real life, from magazine covers, financial interviews playing on muted televisions, news stories she half listened to while tying her hair before work. Roman Mercer, founder of Mercer Shield, the cybersecurity genius who had just won a defense contract worth more money than Evelyn could even picture. He wore a dark suit with no tie, and the top button of his shirt undone, and everything about him looked expensive without asking for attention. Evelyn tried to ignore him. Then the feeling came. It started as a small prickling at the back of her neck. The old signal. The one that had saved her more than once. Someone was watching. Not her. Him. She reached down for the bottle of water in her seat pocket and used the motion to glance behind her. Her eyes moved once, quick and clean, then forward again. Row 4. Seat 4B. A man leaned against the window like he was asleep. His eye mask sat pushed up on his forehead. His mouth hung slightly open. But the sleep looked wrong, too neat, too measured. His breathing had no drift to it, no slackness, no real surrender. Evelyn's stomach tightened. There was something in his hand, small, dark, angled with care. And she knew that angle, not because she guessed, because she had spent 14 years learning what trained people did with cameras, guns, phones, lies, and fear. The object in his hand was pointed precisely toward Roman Mercer's laptop, slightly down, slightly forward. The kind of angle used by someone who knew exactly what he was stealing, corporate espionage, or worse. She swallowed slowly and kept her face still. Her first instinct was to get a flight attendant. But how would that sound? "Excuse me, I believe the sleeping man in row 4 is secretly recording a Billionaire screen with a hidden device." They would either smile politely or panic badly. Neither would help. Her second instinct came faster and sharper. "Stand up. Flash credentials. Take control." But she had no badge. Her credentials were not in her wallet anymore, and they were sitting in a drawer in Washington, where she had placed them herself 2 weeks ago after everything fell apart. Administrative leave. Those words still burned. One bad call. One moment of hesitation. One girl dead. One career hanging by a thread. Evelyn closed her eyes for half a second. Think. On her tray table sat a cocktail napkin from the drink she had ordered hours earlier and barely touched. White paper. Airline logo in blue, plain. Forgettable. Useful. She slid it into her palm. Then she took out her pen. Her hand stayed low beneath the edge of the tray as she wrote in small, tight letters. Do not turn around. Man in 4B is filming your screen with hidden camera. Don't react. She read it once. Clear, simple. Enough. Now she just had to get it to him. As if the night itself wanted to help her, the plane gave a sudden shiver. A pocket of rough air rolled beneath them. The cabin jolted. The seatbelt sign lit with a soft chime. The captain's voice came over the speaker. Flight attendants, please be seated. We may have some light turbulence ahead. Evelyn rose at once. Restroom, she said softly, though no one had asked. She stepped into the aisle and moved toward the back of first class with careful slowness. Not too quick, not too cautious. Just another tired passenger walking off nerves and gin. When she reached row 4, she paused and put a hand on the headrest of the aisle seat, as if to steady herself against the movement of the plane. Close now, she could see it better. The man in 4B was still pretending to sleep, but his jaw was tight. His eyes moved beneath his lids, and clipped to the seat pocket ahead of him, nearly hidden in shadow, was a pen that was not a pen. Slightly too thick, slightly too polished, a tiny dark dot near the clip. Camera lens, professional grade. Evelyn kept walking. Inside the restroom, she locked the door and stared at herself in the mirror. Her face looked calm. Her eyes did not. What are you doing? She whispered. No answer came. Only the old pull, the one she had never been able to ignore. Trouble found her. Or maybe she found it first. She counted to 60, flushed the toilet for sound, washed her hands, and then opened the door. The walk back felt longer. When she reached row 3, she let the plane's motion carry her slightly off balance. It was a small stumble, believable enough. Her hand landed on the armrest between 3A and 3B. In the same movement, she let the napkin fall from her fingers. It landed on Roman Mercer's keyboard. Perfect. Evelyn Kahn sat down immediately, clipped in her belt, and stared straight ahead. Her pulse pounded in her throat. Beside her, the typing stopped. She did not look. She could feel the shift in him, the pause, the awareness. A second later, paper rustled softly. He had picked it up. Please, she thought, read it, understand it. Do not turn around. Seconds passed, long and terrible. Then she heard a breath leave him. Not fear, not surprise, something closer to amusement. Evelyn turned before she could stop herself. Roman Mercer was looking directly at her now. For the first time since takeoff, really looking. His eyes were darker than she expected, sharp, steady, too calm for what she had just told him. He held the unfolded napkin in one hand. The corner of his mouth lifted. Don't worry, he said quietly. His voice was low and smooth, pitched for her ears alone. I know. Evelyn blinked. The words hit her harder than panic would have. You know? She whispered. Roman glanced once at the laptop screen, then back at her. I've known since we left Los Angeles. She stared at him. Behind them, row 4 remained still. The fake sleeper, the hidden camera, the humming dark cabin, the entire plane floating high above the sleeping country. Nothing made sense anymore. And Roman folded the napkin with slow care and slid it into his jacket pocket. Then he turned his laptop a fraction toward her, just enough for her to see a screen full of shifting data and one small live video feed from above the cabin. Miss Hart, he said softly. And the fact that he knew her name made the cold run deeper through her bones. The man in 4B is not the only one watching tonight. He rested one hand near the keyboard. And this is where things get complicated. Roman Mercer turned the screen another inch. Evelyn saw a grainy overhead view of first class. Row 3, row 4. The sleeping passengers. the dim lights, the man in 4B with his false stillness. It looked like the view from a ceiling camera. "You have surveillance on this plane?" she asked. "I have surveillance everywhere I expect trouble," Roman said. His fingers moved over the keys with calm precision. "The file I've been typing for the last 3 hours is bait. It looks valuable. It is meant to look valuable. But the code inside it is laced with a tracker. The second it is copied to any outside device, it starts talking back to me." Evelyn felt her pulse hammer harder. "You're using yourself as bait." His expression did not change. "That tends to happen when enough people want what you built." On the screen, a block of large black text appeared over a white background. "Good evening, 4B. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tracking protocol activated." Evelyn's head snapped toward him. "You're sending that to him?" "Already did." Roman's tone stayed cool. "And every device connected to Channel 4 in this cabin just received it, including the one hidden under his blanket." Behind them came a small sound. Fabric shifting, a breath pulled too sharply. Then a frantic tapping noise. Evelyn turned. The man in 4B was upright now. The mask had fallen into his lap. His face looked pale in the blue wash of his phone screen. His fingers moved fast, desperate, but Roman only watched him with the stillness of a man who had expected every second. "It's too late," Roman said, loud enough now that the man could hear him. "You copied the file. The tracker is already buried in the transfer." The man looked up. For one frozen moment, his eyes met Roman's. Evelyn knew that look. She had seen it in interrogation rooms and hostage standoffs. It was the look of someone who had believed he held power, and only to realize too late that he had stepped into a trap. Then the man stood. Too fast. He shoved into the aisle and moved toward the rear of the cabin. "Sir?" A flight attendant called from farther back, startled and unsure. "You need to remain seated." He ignored her. His hand went toward the emergency exit. The cabin cracked wide open. A woman screamed in economy. Someone shouted. A glass hit the floor. The whole plane seemed to inhale in fear. "Down," Roman said, reaching for Evelyn's arm. But Evelyn was already moving. She stepped into the aisle, voice sharp and clear. "Step away from the door." The man turned toward her. He was in his 40s, maybe. Sweat shone on his forehead. His face was tight with panic, not rage. Panic. That changed everything. "Stay back," he snapped. His accent was hard to place. Eastern European, maybe. His hand hovered near the handle. "You don't understand." "No," Evelyn said, keeping her voice level. "I understand enough." She took one slow step closer. At this altitude, the door would not open the way people feared in movies. But terror did not need facts. Terror only needed a man ready to hurt people and die trying. One wrong move here and the cabin could become a killing ground anyway. Behind her, she heard Roman rise from his seat, but not approach. Smart. Let one voice hold the moment. The man's eyes darted between them. "If he tracks it," he said, "if he traces it back, they will kill them." There it was. Not greed, fear. "Your family?" Evelyn asked. His jaw tightened. "They already have the data," he said. "If I fail now, I am dead. If I talk, they die. If I go back, they die. And there is no way out." His fingers brushed the exit handle. Every muscle in Evelyn's body went cold. This was not hijacking. This was collapse. A man at the end of every road. She lowered her voice. "Listen to me. What's your name?" He gave a bitter laugh. "That won't save anyone." "No," she said. but it tells me whether I'm speaking to a ghost or a father." His eyes flickered. That was enough. "You're a father," she said. "How old is your child?" Silence. The cabin shook lightly through another patch of air. Somewhere behind them, someone was crying quietly. "How old?" Evelyn repeated. "7, he whispered. The word seemed torn out of him. Evelyn felt something inside her chest twist. She took another careful step. "Boy or girl?" His face crumpled. "Girl. What's her name?" He stared at her as if the question itself hurt. Then very softly, he said, "Lena." Evelyn held his gaze. "Okay," she said. "Then listen to me for Lena." His breathing broke. "If you touch that handle, you do not save her. You do not save yourself. You hand your employers exactly what they want. Chaos, bodies, headlines. A tragedy big enough to bury every real truth underneath it." His hand trembled. "They told me there was no other choice," he said. "They lied. They always find people, then give us the people above them." His eyes searched her face with naked fear. "You can't protect her?" Evelyn did not answer right away, and she thought of the girl from the Harrison case, 14 years old. A knife, tears, her own voice trying to talk the child down, then the father stepping out from the dark with a gun. One bad instant. One dead child. One mistake that had followed her into every quiet room since. No, she could not promise safety like God could. But she could promise herself. "I was FBI, she said. "I'm on leave now, but I know how men like this work. I know what they fear, I know what makes them move, and I am telling you the only chance your daughter has is if you stay alive long enough to talk." The man's eyes filled. "I failed," he whispered. "Then fail differently," Evelyn said. "Fail in a way that gives Lena a father who can still fight for her." For one long, endless second, no one moved. Then his hand slid away from the exit handle. A sob broke from him, sudden and raw. His shoulders folded in. He sank to his knees in the aisle, both hands covering his face. The air in the cabin changed. Not safe. Not yet. But changed. 2 air marshals appeared almost at once from the rear, moving in fast and controlled. They pinned his arms, secured him, took the hidden device, and pulled him away as passengers stared in shock. Evelyn stood still. Her knees felt weak. Roman's hand touched the middle of her back. Light, steady, real. "You just saved everyone on this plane," he said. She did not look at him. "I've heard that line before." His hand stayed where it was for one more second before falling away. When they landed at JFK, the runway lights looked too bright after the long, dark flight. Federal agents met the aircraft before the door even opened. And passengers were held in place, statements were taken, devices were seized. Evelyn expected handcuffs or at least cold questions. Instead, a gray-haired agent with a hard face and calm eyes introduced herself as Director Elaine Brooks and shook Evelyn's hand. "Well done, Hart." Evelyn almost laughed. "That's generous." "It's accurate." Brooks glanced toward Roman, who stood a few feet away, speaking quietly with 2 men who looked like national security in human form. "We've been trying to break this network open for months. Your conversation on that plane gave us something usable. I interfered while on leave. You prevented mass panic and got a live asset to surrender. I can live with the paperwork." Evelyn folded her arms. "Why do I get the feeling paperwork isn't why I'm still here?" Brooks' mouth moved, almost a smile. "And because Mercer asked for you." Evelyn looked over. Roman had just ended his conversation and was walking toward them. "He asked for what, exactly?" "That," Brooks said, "is between you and the billionaire." 2 hours later, Evelyn sat in the back of a black SUV moving through Manhattan before sunrise. The city outside was all wet pavement, blinking lights and buildings slowly turning gold at the edges. Roman sat beside her with his laptop open again, the glow painting one side of his face. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then he said, "The man in 4B is named Victor Soren." Evelyn looked at him. "You already have his file?" "I had part of it before the plane. More now." Roman did not look up. Software engineer. Recruited 3 years ago by a foreign espionage network operating through private shell firms and contractors. His daughter is real, so is the threat. Evelyn leaned back against the seat. "And you still used him?" Roman finally turned to her. "I used the people above him." "That sounds cleaner than it is." "Yes," he said. "It usually does." The honesty in that answer caught her off guard. She looked out at the city for a moment, then back at him. "Why me?" Roman closed the laptop. The click sounded final in the quiet car. "Because you saw what everyone else missed," he said. "And because when things got ugly, you didn't reach for force first, yet you reached for the human breakpoint." "You mean I talked a terrified father off a ledge?" "I mean you found the one thing stronger than his fear." His eyes held hers. Not flirtation. Not yet. Something deeper and more dangerous than that. Recognition. "You knew my name on the plane," she said. "I recognized you." "From where?" "The Harrison case." The air left her lungs. Of all the answers she had expected, that was not one of them. Roman's voice softened. "The internal details never went public, but enough did. You were the agent who tried to talk that girl down. Most people inside Washington blamed you because blame is easy and grief likes a target. I read the file. I didn't." Evelyn looked away. The city outside blurred. "She still died," she said. "Yes." The way he said it hurt worse because he did not dress it up. "And she died," he repeated. "And you've been carrying that every day since. But tonight, when another desperate person stood in front of you, you still stepped forward." Evelyn's throat tightened. "You make that sound noble." "I think it was brave." "No," she said quietly. "It was penance." Roman studied her face for a moment, but did not argue. Instead, he said, "The people behind Victor are not finished. Tonight was a test and a theft, but the file he copied was meant to lead us somewhere bigger." "How big?" Roman glanced down at the closed laptop. "Big enough that 3 governments would like me ruined, and at least one would like me dead." "And what exactly are you building that scares people that much?" He was quiet for a beat. Then he said, "A security system called Helios Gate, if it works, and it will make certain kinds of covert surveillance almost impossible. Entire intelligence structures would have to rebuild from the ground up." Evelyn understood at once. "This isn't just theft," she said. "It's war in a tailored suit." Roman gave a small nod. "That's a fair summary." The SUV turned onto a quieter street lined with glass towers. Dawn was breaking properly now. Light gathered on the windows in long gold bands. "You still didn't answer my question," Evelyn said. Roman looked at her. "I want you to work with me," he said. "Not as security. I already have men with guns. I want someone who sees people clearly before they become a problem. Someone who can read motive before motive becomes blood. You want a profiler. I want you." The words landed in the space between them and stayed there, and Evelyn felt heat rise in her face, which annoyed her more than it should have. "You barely know me. I know what you did when it would have been easier to stay silent." The SUV slowed at the curb before a tower of black glass. Roman reached for the door handle. And I know that courage looks a lot like trouble at first glance. He stepped out, then looked back in at her. Come upstairs, he said. See what kind of war you nearly walked into tonight. Evelyn hesitated. She should have said no, she knew that. She was on leave. She was exhausted. She was already too close to something dangerous. But danger had a shape now, a face, a name. And somewhere in that shape was a 7-year-old girl named Lena and a network of people who used fathers like disposable tools. So she got out of the SUV. The wind between the towers was cold and sharp. It caught her hair and pushed it across her cheek as she followed Roman toward the building. Inside, the lobby gleamed with polished stone and soft light. The elevator doors opened without a button being pressed. Roman stepped inside and waited for her. Evelyn joined him. The doors closed. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke as the elevator rose fast through the center of the tower. Then Roman said very quietly, "For what it's worth, Miss Hart, I'm glad you passed me that note." Evelyn looked at the silver doors ahead of them. "So am I," she said, and surprised herself by meaning it. When the elevator opened, a warm light spilled across the floor. Roman's penthouse did not look like the cold home of a man who lived behind security walls. It looked lived in, shelves full of books, deep-colored rugs, a grand piano near the window, art that felt chosen, not bought. The whole city stretched beneath the glass like a field of stars. Evelyn had barely stepped inside when her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She pulled it out. One message, unknown number, one word, watching. Below it was a photo, a young woman with red hair and a backpack leaving a brick building in morning light. Evelyn stopped breathing. "My sister," she whispered. Roman was beside her instantly. "Who is she?" "Lucy. She's in Boston, architecture school." Evelyn's fingers shook. "Yeah, they know about her." Roman's face went still in a way she was beginning to understand meant danger. Real danger. "Give me the phone." She handed it over. He was already reaching for his own. "I'm putting security on her now." Evelyn stood in the middle of that beautiful room and felt the floor tilt beneath her. The war had not followed her. It had arrived before she had. Lucy answered on the second ring. "Evie? It's barely morning." Evelyn tried to make her voice sound steady. "Listen to me. I need you to go somewhere public right now, campus security, a cafe, anywhere with people. Stay there until I call you back." A pause. Then Lucy's voice changed. "What happened?" "Nothing has happened," Evelyn said too quickly. "I just need you to trust me." Another pause. Longer this time. "All right," Lucy said softly. "Yeah, I'm getting my shoes." Roman was already speaking into his own phone across the room, issuing calm instructions that sounded too precise to be anything but practiced. Names, routes, arrival times. He moved like a man used to building order in the middle of panic. When the call ended, Evelyn lowered the phone and pressed the heel of her hand against her mouth. "They got to her picture before sunrise," she said. "That means they moved fast." Roman nodded. "They were ready to use her the moment you mattered." Evelyn looked at him sharply. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No." His voice softened. "It's supposed to tell you this isn't random." He crossed to the wall of windows and touched a hidden panel. The glass darkened, then came alive as a massive screen. Faces, files, maps, and then streams of coded traffic spread across it in cold blue light. The room changed instantly. Less home. More command center. Roman pointed to a cluster of profiles. "Victor gave us a starting point before federal custody took over. The network that recruited him calls itself Iron Veil." One image enlarged. A man in military dress uniform, gray at the temples, hard eyes, deep lines cut into his face like old damage. "General Mikhail Orlov," Roman said. Former intelligence chief. Officially retired. Unofficially, he runs off-books operations through private cyber contractors and loyal state assets. Evelyn studied the man's face. Why you? Roman's expression grew still, because 10 years ago, a secure communications breach led to a strike that killed his son. The answer landed heavy. And he blames your systems. He blames the world, Roman said. I'm simply the piece of it he can reach. Revenge, Evelyn thought. Not greed, not ideology. Grief left to rot into something vicious. She looked at Orlov's photograph again and felt a chill move through her chest. She knew that kind of grief. Knew what it could become if fed for too long. He won't stop, she said. No. Then we end it. Roman turned and looked at her. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. The next 4 days moved like a storm building over water. Lucy was moved to a secure location outside Boston under federal protection. Victor began talking in exchange for guarantees for his daughter. And Evelyn slept in short pieces and worked in long stretches. She learned Roman's rhythms. The way he went silent when he was angry, the way he touched the rim of a coffee cup when he was thinking, the way he stared out at the skyline when memories pulled at him from somewhere he did not name. And he learned hers. He learned she paced when she worried, that she could read weakness in a room almost before the weakness knew it existed, that she still woke from bad dreams with one hand clenched tight in the sheets. On the 4th morning, Iron Veil struck, not with bullets, with headlines. The first alert hit at 6:02 a.m. Mercer Shield's CEO linked to foreign intelligence payments. Then came the video. It appeared on every network at once, every platform, every feed. Roman, I'm seated across from a man the news identified as a hostile foreign operative, accepting a briefcase and shaking hands. The image was perfect. Too perfect. Deepfake, Evelyn said at once. Roman stood at the windows with his jaw tight, watching the story spread across a dozen screens. Military-grade rendering, not something a teenager made in a basement. Within an hour, Mercer's Shield stock had crashed. Government panels were calling for hearings. Commentators were using words like traitor and compromise and national security breach. Evelyn watched Roman carefully. He was angry, but underneath the anger was something colder, familiarity. You expected this, she said. Roman did not answer right away. Finally, he said, not this exact move, but this kind of move, yes. She stepped closer. He can't kill you easily, and so he destroys you instead. Roman turned. If Orlov can make enough people doubt me, he does not need to stop Helios Gate himself. The government will do it for him. And what do you want to do? His eyes darkened. I want to burn down everything he built. The room went quiet. Evelyn held his gaze. That sounds personal. It is personal. So was the plane. His voice dropped. He threatened your sister. And now he wants you furious enough to make a mistake. Roman looked away, out at the city, at the cold daylight hitting the glass towers. You think I don't know that? I think you do, Evelyn said. I also think pain makes smart people stupid. He faced her again. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Roman said, Tell me what you would do. Evelyn took a breath. I would expose him, completely, and I would tear away every layer, every lie, every loyal man around him. I would drag his real face into the light where his own allies can see what he is. She paused. But I would not become him to do it. Roman's jaw tightened. And if the legal path is not enough, then we make it enough. He studied her, something shifting behind his eyes. You really believe that? No, she said honestly. Sometimes I believe revenge sounds cleaner, faster. Sometimes I still think about all the ways I could have changed one terrible night in my own life if I had just stopped caring about rules. Her voice grew quieter. But every time I follow that thought to the end, it turns ugly. Roman said nothing. Evelyn stepped closer still. If you win by becoming crueler than the man you're fighting, you don't win. You just survive in a worse shape. Something in his face softened then, not weakness. Release. All right, he said. Evelyn blinked. All right? He gave a tired half-smile. You look prepared to argue for an hour. I'm sparing you. Despite everything, she almost smiled back. Then let's do it right, she said. Roman nodded once. We'll do it your way. The Ashcroft Foundation Gala took place that Friday night in a ballroom made for power and performance. Crystal chandeliers blazed overhead. Marble floors gleamed under warm golden light. Men in tuxedos and women in silk moved through the room with polished ease. Money made its own kind of silence, Evelyn thought. Different from the silence on a plane, but just as heavy. She hated the place at once. Roman noticed. You look like you want to arrest the flower arrangements, he murmured. Evelyn adjusted the emerald gown that still felt too elegant for her skin. I just don't trust rooms where everyone smiles with their teeth. His mouth moved at one corner. That's probably why I brought you. She glanced at him. He looked devastating in black tie, calm, controlled, untouchable. But she knew him better now, knew the strain under the surface, knew how much rested on tonight. Target? She asked. Roman tipped his glass slightly toward the far end of the ballroom. General Orlov stood near the windows, speaking with a senator and 2 defense contractors. He looked perfectly at home, perfectly respectable. Like a man who had never ruined lives from behind locked doors. He's bold, Evelyn said. And he believes he already won. Good, she said. That will make this hurt more. Roman looked at her then, and for just a second the noise of the room seemed to fade. You frightened me a little, Evelyn Hart. You should be frightened, she said lightly. I'm on leave. That earned a real smile. At 9:15, Roman took the stage. The room quieted fast. Faces turned, phones lifted. Roman stood beneath the lights with no notes in his hands and no tremor in his voice. Good evening, he said. Most of you expected me to spend tonight defending myself. I won't. A ripple moved through the room. I won't defend myself because I am not the real story. What you are looking at is not a scandal. It is an attack, a coordinated disinformation campaign designed to destroy a government security project and anyone connected to it. The massive screen behind him lit up. Images appeared. Time-stamped data, shell companies, internal transfers, flight records, communications logs. Then came footage from the plane. The crowd stirred. Evelyn watched Orlov instead. He had gone very still. 4 nights ago, Roman continued, an operative tied to a covert network attempted to steal classified work during a transcontinental flight. When that failed, the same network escalated to coercion, blackmail, and fabricated media. The operation behind it all has one architect. The screen changed. General Mikhail Orlov's face filled the ballroom. A murmur broke like a wave. Roman's voice sharpened. General Orlov used state resources and private contractors to pursue a personal vendetta under the cover of intelligence work. Every file shared tonight has already been delivered to U.S. federal agencies, multiple allied governments, and oversight bodies inside his own sphere of influence. Now the room erupted. People turned. Orlov's face drained, not with fear at first, but with fury. You're lying, he said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. Roman looked straight at him. Then deny the testimony. The screen changed again. Victor appeared. In recorded interview footage, pale and exhausted, giving names, dates, orders, banking channels, handlers. Direct reference to Orlov. Every eye in the room swung back to the general. For one suspended second, he stood motionless. Then his right hand moved toward his coat. Evelyn was already running. She crossed the polished floor in 3 hard strides. Orlov pulled a pistol halfway clear, but she caught his wrist before he could raise it. The impact jarred up her arm. She twisted sharply. The gun hit the marble with a crack that echoed through the room. Orlov cursed and lunged. Evelyn drove her shoulder into him, turned his arm behind his back, and forced him down against a table dressed in white linen and crystal. "General Mikhail Orlov," she said, her voice ringing through the stunned ballroom, "you are under arrest." FBI agents poured through the doors. Everything after that happened fast. Shouts, cameras flashing, hands securing Orlov. Rights read aloud. Guests pressed back in shock. Evelyn looked up. Herr Roman still stood on the stage. Their eyes met across the room. He gave her one small nod. She answered with one of her own. It was over. 6 weeks later, the airport was crowded with holiday travelers. The noise should have annoyed Evelyn, but instead it felt strangely comforting. Rolling suitcases, children whining, voices spilling from every direction. Life in motion. Real, messy, ordinary life. Lucy was safe in Boston and finishing the semester. The Bureau had reinstated Evelyn in full. Officially. Clean record. No shadow over her return. Roman had pushed for it harder than anyone admitted aloud. He had also offered her a permanent job at Mercer Shield. She had turned him down. Not because she did not care. Maybe because she did. She was still a federal agent, still herself. And she needed that ground under her feet before she could build anything else. Now she sat near Gate 18 with a paper cup of coffee and her carry-on beside her, waiting for boarding to begin. That was when she noticed the man in the next seat. He wore a dark suit with no tie and held a folded newspaper he was not really reading. "Fancy meeting you here," Roman Mercer said. Evelyn stared at him, then at the paper, then back at him. "You are unbelievable." His expression turned innocent in a way that fooled no one. "Coincidence?" "You don't believe in coincidence?" "Not usually." "Did you track my flight?" He folded the newspaper carefully. "That sounds like a harsh way to describe romance." She laughed before she meant to. It slipped out of her like something she had forgotten how to do. Roman looked quietly pleased with himself. And boarding was announced. First class first. Of course. He stood and offered her his hand. "Shall we?" Evelyn looked at his hand for a moment, then placed hers in it. Warm, steady, familiar. They walked to the gate together. When the agent scanned their boarding passes, Evelyn glanced down and saw the seat numbers. 3A and 3B. She turned to him slowly. "You arranged that." Roman placed a hand over his chest. "I am wounded by this suspicion." "You should be." Inside the plane, they found their seats. The cabin lights dimmed as boarding finished. Outside the window, runway lights stretched into long, glowing lines. Roman reached into his pocket and pulled out a cocktail napkin. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "Really?" "History matters," he said. He wrote something, folded it once, and slid it onto her tray table. She opened it. "The man in 3B has been watching you for 6 weeks. He's fairly sure he's in love with you. Dinner when we land?" Evelyn smiled before she could stop herself. Then she took out her pen and wrote beneath his words. "Dinner sounds good, but you're paying. And if you ever track my flights again, I'm arresting you." She handed it back. Roman read it, laughed softly, then reached for her hand. This time she let him keep it. The engines roared. The plane began to move. The ground slipped away beneath them, and the dark sky opened wide beyond the glass. Somewhere above the eastern coast, two people who had found each other through fear, courage, and one folded napkin sat side by side in the quiet and watched the stars come out.